Carly, and I know you're Jane, but whatever your personal preference is, Christy.
Whatever goes with your outfit.
I like blue.
Oh,
Alumni Roundtable. It's my pleasure to be with you. I'm Mark Orfinger, the principal, and I'm delighted to have next to me our superintendent of schools, Dr. Paul Freed. This is a very special edition for me because this marks the 10th anniversary for me of doing this show. And I was thinking the other day that this represents over 3,000 students who have come back each year, graduates, and it's just a pleasure to have all of you back with us. This show gives us an opportunity to see how students who graduated here last June are doing in college and reflect a little bit about college and tell us a little bit about their experiences in high school from a different vantage point. And we're going to start the show by starting with Becca Potter. We're going to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us what college you're attending. So without further ado, welcome, and Becca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Parter and I go to Johns Hopkins University.
I'm Layla Zayden and I go to Georgetown University.
Hi, I'm Patricia Antonios and I go to University of Pennsylvania.
I'm Amy Parter and I also go to Johns Hopkins University.
I'm Beth Shook and I go to Georgetown University.
I'm Willie Spagnola and I go to the University of Southern California.
I'm Charlie Cohen and I'm attending a year-long program in Israel.
I'm Jonathan Sankey. I'm going to the University of Pennsylvania.
I'm Phoebe White. I'm at Princeton University.
I'm Laura Amon and I'm going to Sacred Heart University.
I'm Diana Bilbao. I'm at Mount Holyoke College.
I'm Maggie Borden. I'm at the University of Pennsylvania.
I'm Terry Barsky, and I attended SUNY Albany, but I'm transferring to SUNY New Paltz.
I'm Midori Uehara, and I go to Stanford University.
I'm Brett Davis, and I go to Bowdoin College.
I'm Alex Janoff, and I go to Washington University in St. Louis.
I'm Lena Kahn, and I go to Williams College.
I'm Kathleen Carroll, and I go to Georgetown University.
I'm Craig Weinrib, and I go to Columbia.
I'm Michael Flynn, and I go to Stanford University.
I'm Andrew Center, and I go to Washington University in St. Louis.
I'm Clara Bademan, and I go to Swarthmore College.
I'm Christy Pearson, and I go to Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas.
I'm Allison Pincus, and I go to the University of Michigan.
And I'm Camilla White, and I go to Washington University in St. Louis.
It's quite a collection. Before we start, I just wanted to say to you that as I saw all of you back in the cafe today, it was hard for me to accept that you're still not in the school. I felt like saying, come back. I miss you very much. You really enriched the school, and it's nice to see all of you. But let's start just with a simple question. 6 months, almost 6 months have gone. How's it going so far?
Good.
You see, the point is to answer, not nod. Anybody, how the first few months gone?
It's been going really well so far. It wasn't as hard a transition as I thought it would be. I just know we had a 5-day-long orientation period, so it was really nice to get to know you got to know a lot of people in the freshman class before the upperclassmen came. And so the school really made an effort to make you feel welcome, and so the transition was pretty good, and so far it's been great.
That's great. That's great.
I ended up being at school for like a good month and a half before any other students came because I had preseason starting in early August and classes didn't start till late September. So I was on the campus for a really long time, and that ended up being good because I got to learn my way around and like met the whole team and got accustomed to that. And I mean, I didn't get to move into the dorm I'm living in now, just live with the team. But that was good because I felt adjusted to like the campus at least, and it wasn't like college was starting because it was pretty much just field hockey camp. But like that ended up being good, and then we had orientation too, like for a week or so when everyone else arrived, or the freshmen.
And at this point, you feel acclimated?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Brett?
I've been kind of having a different experience.
This is what I like about the class of 2006. Brett, Charlie.
While everybody here is getting used to a new campus, I was getting used to a new country, and my orientation was 5 days hiking in a mountain instead of walking around a quad. But I mean, like the first months have been incredible. I've been working in the Israeli Defense Forces and meeting millions of new people every day. I'd say it's the most positive thing I've ever done.
Are you frightened for your own safety?
Only when I pay attention to how. Well, no, whenever I pay attention to the rockets just going over my head, that's when I'm scared. No, but seriously, like it's strange being back here because thinking about one of the things I miss about high school is the Globe. I've stopped reading the newspapers because that's how I get scared and that's how I get nervous. I'd rather just live my life and do my everyday things and not think about what's happening in the countries around me. Brett?
Well, when I started out school, my school has a huge outing program, and I mean I don't do the most outdoorsy things sometimes, but 80% of the freshman class did pre-orientation trips, and it was with about 8 to 12 people depending on what group you were in, and you got to meet them. Some of them are a little different than you, but when you first get back to campus, it was really nice just to have those people that you walk by, or you could sit with them in the cafeteria before because you didn't really know anyone else. And then we had the orientation, and since my school is pretty small, you got to know all the faces seemed pretty familiar, and so it was good and it was pretty easy to get adjusted.
One or two other people, how you feel after 4 or 5 months?
You go.
Charlie started a pattern that's going to be difficult to break. Diana?
I love it. I'm having a great time, and it's actually, I think I'm in a rather unique situation because my roommate and I are best friends. So that's really great. And it was actually interesting because though we had a long orientation period, I just wanted to start class. I was really excited to start class. Maybe that makes me a nerd, but surprise, surprise. What was I going to say? Oh, what's nice about my school is that every dorm has its own dining hall. So we had a lot of dorm solidarity, and you really met everyone in your dorm the first week, and it was really nice. So now even when I don't see everyone, I know everyone, and it's really nice.
Somebody else wanted to say something, Terry?
I did. I had a really rough transition, which is opposite of Diana. I got there, and I guess I was expecting everyone to be open. We had an orientation over the summer, but nothing when we first got there. There were no mandatory meetings. You had one mandatory meeting, but no mandatory activities to go to. I loved what I learned academically. The classes were great, but the social scene turned out to not be what I had expected to be. My roommate was my best friend, but the people around me were people that didn't relate with me at all, so the transition became really rough. And I just felt like the school wasn't as open as I thought it was going to be. It was really hard for me to go out and meet new people. And the clubs weren't, there was a club fair, but it was I felt it was hard to get involved really as soon as you got there. So, I mean, overall I'm happy with everything I learned, but that's why I'm leaving, because I didn't.
What do you mean that the people, except for your roommate, were not
I was
people like you?
See, the way Albany's set up is there are 4 quads, and then in our quad, there's always a tower in the middle of the quad, and then there are low rises around. I got put in the tower, which is very upper class. So there really aren't kids around. You're with your suite mates, are the people that you interact with the most. And my roommate and I got along, and our suite mates, they all hated us. We hated each other. There was always tension between us. And so it really wasn't the hallways were really quiet. If I had lived in the low rises, they say those are vibrant and everyone's active there, but it was that I got put in the tower, and I got put on the half sophomore, half freshman quad, so it was quieter than the all freshman outgoing quad. So I think that had a lot to do with it, because the people who were on the freshman quad said it was easier to meet new people, but in the tower it's very quiet.
And Terry, had you made the decision to transfer relatively quickly?
No, I was going to give it a year, and then and I was going to stay with my roommate because she was my best friend, and my roommate actually told me right before November, she was like, I'm going to go home next semester. And I was like, oh no, like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I applied to SUNY Stony Brook and SUNY New Paltz, because Stony Brook's big and like Albany, and then New Paltz is smaller. And I went and visited both of them, and I decided that New Paltz seems like a place that I can be for next semester.
Since parents watch the show all the time, can I ask you something that a parent would appreciate an answer to? Are you homesick? See, here's what you're supposed to say, Dr. Orfinger, I miss my parents terribly. Are you homesick, and were you at the beginning?
I have a group of about 10 really close girlfriends, and my roommate and I, like Diana, were best friends, and we were, out of like the 10 of us, we were the 2 people that didn't go home until Thanksgiving. Like everyone else had gone home at least for a weekend. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like being away at camp without the work, or with the workload instead of, I liked it so much that I mean, I talked to my parents and I thought about going home, but I never was homesick enough to have to be home.
And do you, oh, go ahead.
Also,
Sisters
our
first,
older
yeah.
sister is there too, so it made it an easier transition, because if we ever needed her, she was there. But also I feel like being away from home, like although I miss my parents, I think it brought me closer. I think I have a better relationship with my parents now that I've been out of the house for 3 months. Sorry, I've been home for a few days and I'm ready, you know.
I actually remember that very clearly.
Every
time I come home. Both my roommates are actually from California, so they're always saying how they miss their home, and one of them's actually a fencer, so she hasn't been home until now, actually. So they always say how they miss their parents, and I'm so close, I feel bad like not going, so I bring them home with, I brought them home during fall break, so it's like my way of don't take advantage enough of being so close to home while they're both in California and don't get to see their parents enough. So whenever they say they miss their parents, I'm like, oh, well, I do too.
I know you're very close to your mom. You were not, you're close. You can come home frequently.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. Will?
I started really early. I started in the middle of August, and I haven't been home till now. So my situation is relatively different. I chose not to come home because my schedule was very weird and I only got like a day for Thanksgiving. So it would have been really hard regardless for me to travel home. But I kind of did get homesick after Thanksgiving for the last couple of weeks. Just because USC is in, I don't know, it's in Los Angeles. I'd never lived in a city before, and it's a huge city. And I was just, by the end, I was just tired. Yeah. I was like, all right, I need the suburbs. I need a break. And I don't know, at the beginning, it was interesting because at the beginning I found it less hard to acclimate to the community. I think it's because I was so excited about it and stuff. But slowly as the semester progressed, I realized just how different everything around me was and just how different a lot of the people are, because it does draw a large amount of kids from California and the western states. So.
Yeah, I felt really homesick at first, but it was mostly because I took on too many classes and it was a really hard adjustment. I had worked hard through high school, but it was the work that I was doing was unlike anything I'd done before. It was just every minute I was like, this is the hardest thing I've done, and then the next day you're like, no, this is the hardest thing I've done to do. And towards Thanksgiving, I was just I just want to go home. And it's not really, I don't know what it was that I missed about home, but it was just a break from work and being able to sleep and.
You know, Camille, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but this is the first time in 10 years I've had 2 sets of twins, Amy and Becca, and you and Phoebe. You're not only separated from home, but you're separated from your sister. Has that been a factor?
Yeah, I think so. The first.
Charlie, don't answer that. Just kidding.
Before Thanksgiving, the time between August and November, that was the time that I felt homesick. And I missed Phoebe, especially towards right before Thanksgiving. And it was just, I love, WashU has a great, it's wonderful socially, and that's sort of what, even though I don't have a lot of free time, in my dorm, my best friends are in my dorm, and it's just, it's wonderful. but yeah, I missed Phoebe, but after Thanksgiving, like once I saw her, I was fine again. I was like, okay.
I actually found that a little bit easier than I expected it would be.
Phoebe, tread carefully.
The beginning of school until Thanksgiving was the longest we had ever been apart, but I guess because we could be on the phone so often, it made it easier. I mean, when we went away to camp, we were at different camps, but we couldn't talk on the phone.
Yeah, we spent
that
so
had
much
been
time
hard. But then also, I mean, I found recently that I've been okay because in my dorm, we're all so close. My dorm is the farthest from all the other dorms, so everyone in Forbes College is really close to each other. And just having a roommate and having my best friends, all around me and on the floor below me, I can always go to them. It is like living in a family, you go down for your meals and you all sit together. And so that's been really nice. But I guess there was one point, especially around midterms week when I was getting kind of stressed out, that I was missing home and missing Camilla and having someone always just right there when things are hard. But also I think that part of it was that my roommate is on the volleyball team, so for most of the fall she was gone every weekend. And so then, I mean, I was kind of alone on weekends, but after the volleyball season was over, she's been there every weekend, so, I mean, we get along great, and it's nice to have a family there.
Thanks, Beth.
I felt homesick to some extent, and I think I mostly missed kind of being I'm an only child, and I sort of missed having everything to myself, not having to share. But I feel like I talked to my friends on the phone so much, and I talked to my parents so much, and there was really no room to fight. There was nothing to argue about, So we all had really good relationships at that point, and so more than missing them, I just missed just being in Larchmont and my car and just my favorite and the diner, just my favorite things about town. And but I think it's really helpful because there's a big Mamaroneck presence at Georgetown, and some of my best friends from high school went with me to college, so that was really helpful, and it's always nice to have that here when I come back because we can relate about college. So.
One of the Mike?
No.
Oh, one of the biggest things that comes up for people in college is the roommate situation, and I can't tell you all the stories that I've heard the first year. How is your roommate situation? Because you're living with somebody in obviously very cramped quarters. This is not as spacious 5-room apartment.
Will this be televised on the campus?
I don't know, it could be.
I think I have a really good situation going on with my roommate. Me and him are very compatible. Not best friends outside of the room. We don't go out on the weekends and whatnot, but we get along great in the dorm, and he's a nice kid, considerate and everything. So it worked out really well.
Where is he from?
He's from California originally, so. Yeah, a little different for me, different culture clash or whatnot. But it was good.
You have one roommate?
I have one roommate, yeah. It's nice. One of us in just one room, which I thought was going to be kind of hard in the beginning, both of us sleeping right next to each other, But it's but the rooms are big. And actually, in comparison to the other rooms on campus, we have some of the biggest rooms. So.
And
yeah, we do.
And do you anticipate becoming good friends with him?
We'll definitely stay in touch. I mean, he's already called me a couple times since we left only, a week and a half ago, just to talk. But I don't know if we'll, live together in the future. Probably not. But we'll definitely be friends for sure.
Yeah, I think I
Andrew,
will.
how many roommates do you have?
One. One roommate. He's odd.
Andrew, he could be watching too.
Yeah, he is watching.
It's okay.
I'm gonna forward this to him.
I don't
go on YouTube.
I'm not. He's from the middle of nowhere, somewhere in Illinois. I don't really know him that well. He's always on his computer, and it's one of those things where we're compatible, but I will not probably keep much in touch with him at all. It hasn't been bad at all, but just we're just very different people.
Mm-hmm.
My roommate, my roommate is also on the volleyball team, and Stanford volleyball is huge commitment. They were just in the championship game. They lost to Nebraska.
Thank you for the plug.
But anyway, and it worked out in the beginning because we both were out of the room all the time, and at night we would just do our reading and then go to sleep. So our schedules kind of went along with each other. So and we could relate to each other and sort of any experiences we were having difficulties on our teams, we could both understand. And so she's one of my closest friends, and we're also compatible in the living situation. We both are really neat and like need things a certain way. And thank God it's the same way that we need it to be. So like, you know, we split the vacuuming, we dust, you know, that whole thing.
The room is perfect.
Meadery, I want to say this for the parents. You vacuum and you dust. I want to
Yeah.
repeat that.
vacuum
Vacuum and dust.
I vacuumed.
I've done a lot of
I vacuumed 3 times. 3 times.
And Meadery, while you're on stage, is there any boy here who vacuums and dusts?
I'm kind of OCD organized too, so maybe to have that.
Is there anybody here with a roommate situation that is so horrendous that you really feel that you have to change? Laura?
They actually kicked me out. What? Yeah. We just really weren't compatible at all. They weren't really nice people. They were cheating on their boyfriends in front of me. Not an experience I want to relive. I kept saying, you know, I have class at 7, and they'd kind of say, okay, and go back under the covers. And then I decided.
Don't go into details.
Yeah, I decided that I wanted to work it out, and Larissa, the one who I really didn't get along with, said, actually, we've been talking and we think you should leave. I think we'll be better friends that way. We weren't friends in the first place, but so now I'm in a single, and the girls on my floor are really nice. My room's really small, but it's all right.
Could we switch to academics for a minute? Because, of course, college is about more than just roommates and social life,
Really?
one would think.
Is it?
Thank you, Mike. Could you give me your favorite course, and just in general, how you find academic life at the college? Layla?
Yeah. Well, I'm in the SFS at Georgetown, and for that school, you have
What is that?
the School of Foreign Service.
Oh.
There are 4 schools at Georgetown, and I'm in the Foreign Service one. And for everyone in that school, you have a small seminar. I'm sure like all colleges have this also, but it's like 15 people, and like it's really close, and you really form like a bond within the class, and the teacher is like your faculty advisor. And I thought it was really helpful because like just like right from the get-go, there's like a group of friends like that like I could really like relate to. Like you could do homework together, you could like talk about like projects and stuff, and like the teacher was there to like help you along the way. And my seminar was about immigration, which was like something I didn't really like think I would ever take a class on. So I don't know, if anyone in the future goes to Georgetown, I think they should be in the SFS and take my pro sem because it was really good.
Allison.
I took a class on the history of suburbia, and it was an upper level class, so it was all juniors and seniors except for me, and I was really nervous about it. But one of my friends who went to this high school, her brother went to Michigan, and he recommended the class to me before I went. And the teacher was supposed to be like Mr. O'Rourke from the middle school because he was such a good teacher, and he showed a lot of video clips and movies and stuff in class, and that's what this teacher did also. And it was just an amazing class, and I met all these kids that were older, and there was all this writing and a research paper that I wasn't really prepared for beforehand, I don't think, but I kind of got it together, and then the class ended up being really good, and I learned a lot. And I think for people that are choosing classes, just kind of push yourself, and I don't know, something sounds interesting, just take it, because it was really good, really, really good.
That's great. Anybody who hasn't spoken, yes, Kathleen.
I took an English course this semester, and English is something that I've always really enjoyed, and this totally like, blew me out of the water, and I didn't do very well, but I learned a lot, and it was important, I think, to be challenged in new ways.
What was the course, Kathleen?
It was on modernism and postmodernism. So we went to museums and looked at art and talked about how the art related to like what we were reading, and how like the movement affected like all different parts of people's lives, I guess. But it was a really interesting course, and it was unlike anything.
Do you plan to be an English major?
No, but I hope to keep taking English classes.
Every year in this program, I try to get a few people to commit and become English majors, but generally I'm very unsuccessful. Lena, is there a course that you love?
Yeah, I took this political science class, Asia and the World, and I think the professor actually made like a huge difference. He was like the typical like eccentric but brilliant like college professor you're supposed to have, and even though it was a pretty big lecture class, but he was like really dynamic, and it just made a huge difference. So I really want to take more classes with him.
Lena, how big? When you say big class?
It was like 50 kids.
How many of you do have lecture classes well over 50?
500.
300.
What?
This is
That's my entire
Craig.
grade.
Did you say 500?
Yeah.
What class is that?
There's a required science class that every student takes in the first year at school, and they divide the class in half, and half the class takes it the first semester, and half the class takes it the second semester. And there's a privately owned auditorium that's pretty much on the campus, and we pack in the auditorium, and it's pretty much full for each lecture. And then we have a small seminar with 20 people to review the lecture.
And is it good, the class?
I liked it. It was really, it's called Frontiers of Science, and we studied a lot of modern scientific research that has not necessarily been confirmed because it's so current, but was
That
very
sounds
relevant.
interesting. That's a gigantic class. Mike, did you say you have a large class too?
You watch a string theory
Did you say you have a large?
Yeah, Stanford has a requirement just like that called the IHUM, Introduction to Humanities, and there's like a big lecture for it, but likewise there's also a discussion afterwards which had, 12 kids or something like that. So the lectures are not nearly as important, I think, as the discussions are, because that's when you really, learn.
They
and
don't take
talk.
attendance at
Yeah, they
lecture.
don't. Nobody. I shouldn't say nobody, but like lots of people sleep through lecture.
See, now we're
Not that I-
getting to the nitty-gritty. It's just very large, and,
Yeah,
and people do tend to absent themselves. You're
My
right.
chem class was larger than my IHM
Yeah.
class, I think. I don't know. There were 2 sessions, so I usually went to the 9 a.m. because my IHOM was at 11. But there were at least 200 people in it.
Somebody else who hasn't spoken, a favorite class, something you just love? Jonathan?
It's a really difficult physics class where it's pretty much an endeavor between a group of 5 people. The class is it's become really cliquey, but that's not a bad thing. But there's 30 of us in the class. It's everyone who stuck through. And I think we were 50 at the beginning of the semester, and everyone pretty much dropped it because it was a lot of work. And we spent about 3 hours a week per problem sets, and a lot of times it would just be a couple of problems, so we would work on it at home, and then we would go to recitation and ask questions, and that usually wouldn't help. Then we would go and meet, and we'd work on it, then we'd go to his office hours and work on it. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it in the end, I think.
Yeah. I know you're extraordinarily good in science. You were when you were here. Are you planning to be a physics major?
For now I am. I'd like to get some work this summer as a lab assistant to see if I want to go on with that.
So could I plunge in and just ask you whether I know you took APC when you were here. Did physics prepare you well for it?
It prepared me well, but it was still a really hard class when I took this physics class at Penn. It was good preparation, though.
I actually have to take physics 2 at Penn also because I'm in the engineering school, and I did take B, I did not take C, although some of the material that I took this year was the same, just the pace is so different that it's a lot harder to catch up, but I was glad that I took physics B here, so it kind of helped me, but the pace is just so much faster.
Clara?
I was going to say that most of the classes, the pace is just so different from high school. You plow through it, and it's up to you're on your own. It's up to you to do the homework on time. It's up to you to do the readings. And there's so many resources there for you if you use them. You have office hours. We have writing associates, which are students that have been recommended, and they read your papers over for you when you have them as drafts, and they'll come back to with comments, and they have specializations based on their majors or classes they've done really well in. So there's a lot of stuff there to help you, but it's very different from high school. It's a lot more work. It's very different work. So,
Clara, it's interesting because supposedly students who have come back who have graduated from Mamaroneck say that given the drop block and given the kind of freedom we have, they are better prepared than many high school students for that kind of college pattern. Do you find that's true? I mean, we don't have classes every single day. We do drop, and people give long-range assignments here in the high school a lot, and you do have a lot of responsibility. Does that translate to college?
Yeah, I also
Alex,
think there are a lot of...
You can go.
Go for it.
Don't be so
there are a lot of
polite,
kids
Alex,
from private, I guess it depends on the school, but there are a lot of private school kids, and private schools are usually a lot more stern and a lot more structured. Not to say, but just they have a lot more rules. And you've got to stay within much more constrained limits. And I think that we were definitely at an advantage in that sense in terms of adjusting, because
we know what it's like to have an off-campus. I mean, it's, college is off-campus, and you have freeze, throughout the day or whatever, analogy you want to make. So I think that definitely helped a lot.
I was a lot better at using like my hour and a half time productively than some people, because I knew that I played tennis and like at 4 o'clock from 4 to like 8 or 9 I would be busy with tennis and then like dinner with the team, and then so I used those times, and most people didn't, because we had the free periods, and you knew how I had to do it now. I mean in high school, so it was similar to that.
I ask periodically, because I'm sure Dr. Fried has heard it too, that parents say, do students need the free period? Do they need all that freedom in high school?
I mean, a lot of people are taking, I don't know how many hours of classes, but I'm taking 30 hours of classes, or I was last semester, 30 hours of classes a week. So it was, I had, on 2 days a week, I had a 4-hour, like I didn't even have lunch periods sometimes, but I'd have 4 hours, a break 2 days a week. And in the beginning, I like wasn't getting any sleep, and because I was always working, and then I finally like really began to use those periods, and that was it helped me out.
I'm just going to give a different picture of WashU. You can also get by with like 12 hours a week.
I don't think I have more than like 2 hours of classes a day at most.
Yeah, something like that.
Like that's like my heaviest day. I had like 2 classes. One at like 11 to like 11 to 12.
But
and then it was
nothing
like
at 8
2 to
o'clock?
3. What's up?
Nothing at 8 o'clock?
There's no way. I
9 o'clock is early.
Well, that's what's so great is you get to pick your classes. I just refuse to take any classes that are earlier than 10.
Yeah,
I 10:30.
I start at 1 p.m. for 3 days next week.
Andrew, life is tough.
Like next semester, I kind of worked my classes, so I don't have any Friday classes, and as a freshman, that works out. I mean, I guess it's a small school, so I was able to figure that out, and so that's nice. And even the other days, I don't have that many. I mean, I have 4.5 hours of class 1 day, 2 days a week, and then an hour and a half class.
Right.
2 days.
How many of you have classes on Friday?
They make
It does my heart good.
Next semester
I want to ask you something. When I look around this room, you were extraordinarily involved in extracurricular activities in the school. Many of you, from athletics to varsity teams to music to PACE to clubs, etc. How does that translate in college? Do you have time for that, whether it be athletics or whether it be the kinds of things you're involved in here, theater, science, research? I'm curious. College is very different. Anybody who hasn't spoken who would like to?
My experience is that you have to pick and choose a lot more in college, like even more than you do here. Because I remember here you would go to the club fair and you would sign up for 20 things, and then whittle it down to 5 or so. But at school, I went to our club fair and signed up for so many things, and I ended up not doing any of them, and I just do orchestra, and I joined the crew team. So that's really intense. So I think at my school, at least when you do varsity athletic, you have to really only stick to 1 or 2 other extracurriculars. So, because orchestra is really time-consuming as well.
I also joined the crew team, and I find that it's almost impossible to do anything else. And I mean, I played.
That's the one activity.
Yeah, and a lot of my friends also joined the crew team, and then if they were involved with anything else, they ended up quitting crew because there was not time for anything else. There was one of my friends was in a dance group, and they only had practices 2 times a week or something, but there was still no time to have those rehearsals and also be on the crew team. And so I find it very hard to be with just one thing, especially crew. We have practice all year round. There's no season off. And I mean, I was used to doing a lot of different things in high school, and I miss the other sports I played, and I miss the flute. I haven't had time for music, and so I'm thinking of maybe not sticking with crew so that I can do, a club sport and be in some orchestra.
And Phoebe, how many hours a week is crew practice?
Well, we have practice 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, but to get to the boathouse and shower and change it takes up 3 to 4 hours a day. So, I mean, it takes up.
So while we're on athletics, people who are athletically inclined, do you participate in athletics in college, and how much time does it take?
That's one thing that I really miss about not playing a varsity sport at college. I miss the team aspect and having practices every day and games and stuff. But I plan on playing club lacrosse. It hasn't started in the fall yet, but I plan on playing it. And I mean, especially Johns Hopkins lacrosse is so big that it should be. Hopefully, it will be competitive or I mean, hopefully it'll be a little more of a commitment than just like pick up games.
Yeah.
But since it hasn't started yet, I'm not sure.
I
But
see.
yeah.
Meadery, how many hours a week?
Well, during preseason, like, I don't even know, like 6-7 hours a day, but
6-7 hours a day?
yeah, because we would have like 2 days, so we would have like morning session, then like afternoon session, but we didn't have class, so that was okay. I don't know, in season, like, we would have practice from 3 to 6, but like same thing, like they would keep us late, or like we would have to be on the field early, so it ended up being like a 4 or 5 hour production, like every day. And then we would have games on Saturdays, which like also you have like pregame meal like 3 hours before the game, so like it ends up being like 6 hours of your day. And then we had the time in between the end of our season and like January off, so I haven't had practice for like a month and a half, and it's been so nice. But we start again in January, but like a lesser load, but still like everyday practice or conditioning. Or
And those of
weightlifting.
you who played an instrument in school, do you still keep up, and does that take up a lot of time?
Well, like, I'm doing a jazz combo, and it takes up like an hour and a half a week. It's not like, I don't know, as people were saying, I think you have to really pick and choose. You can't do too much. I mean, obviously the athletes are, but I like doing it, so
yeah.
Like, it's not too bad a time commitment. It keeps it up, so it's nice.
Yeah, for the first time in my life, I'm not doing like every music thing available.
Right.
You know, I decided this quarter I'd try focusing on academics and see what I could do, see if I could do as little music as possible. But really, I'm missing it so much. So I'm going back to it and taking some classes next quarter. I was taking lessons, playing a lot of flute, but definitely getting back into it. So I miss Mamaroneck High School, miss Mr. Hooker and all that stuff. But
No, Christy, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but we had kind of an interesting little talk before the meeting about people. You're in Texas, about people and type. This is a very, I would say, a very liberal community, Larchmont, Mamaroneck. And I'm curious to know, when you look at the college as a whole and people around the college, could you share the experience you had in Texas? Because it's very interesting. I don't know whether some of the rest of you found that too.
Well, I wanted to go away and be somewhere that wasn't like New York. So I'm like, oh, I want to go to a more conservative school, so, you know, I could get some of that. I guess I didn't realize how liberal New York was. And I also, being in Texas, I got a huge Christian, it was more Christian than conservative. Like, people are going to Bible study like 4 times a night. Everyone reads their Bible for an hour before bed. You know, you can't curse. You can't talk about drugs or alcohol or sex. So it's just been really kind of, every day it's like, Christy, you're being damned to hell because you're doing this and you're doing that. Like, here are some Bible passages. Can you just read these for us?
Literally?
Yeah. I've had a guy 2 doors down. He keeps giving me passages he highlights for me in the Bible. He's like, Christy, you know, just read these and see what you think about it. See if it changes anything. And I went to church once to, like, because they were singing a lot, and afterwards everyone asked me, they're like, so does that make you rethink like what you're doing in life? And, you know, I just want you to, you know, follow Jesus and follow Christ, because I just lived such a better life from it. And I'm like, so you think I live a horrible life because I don't, you know, follow the Bible? And so I think it's not as much conservative, it's just very, very Christian, and I didn't realize I was going to be getting so much of that being in Texas. So I'm transferring because it's a little, I mean, I love them, they're all so nice. But it is just very overwhelming every day to kind of be like, Christy, you're a horrible person.
Yeah.
And I'm not really, like, I don't really do that much, you know. So I have like one drink the whole semester and have them be like, Christy, you know, what made you do that? Think about it. Like, I need to go somewhere where people aren't.
And have any other people had a clash with values, social values, in terms of your own?
Well, I mean, it wasn't as
Maggie?
extreme as what Christy had. But my roommate, she's from Western Pennsylvania, and we get along great. She's fantastic. She's probably my closest friend. But she had never met a Jew before she came to college. So I mean, like, and Penn is a very, very Jewish school. So it was sort of just a little bit of a culture shock for her, because she went to Catholic school her whole life, and she's very open and just a great person. But like, I took her to Hillel, and we sort of, like, she sort of just learned I've learned a lot about, because I didn't know a lot of people who went to Catholic school, but it's sort of like it's been an interesting experience interacting with her.
Did you want to talk a little bit about the survey?
Sure, I think that would be interesting. Did we just miss something?
So now we're on to some controversial things.
Yeah, you may have been aware that, and of course you were part of the survey group about the survey that was given to students at the high school regarding drug and alcohol use. And this year we had a rather important meeting with the community, very well attended. The Homix Auditorium was filled with parents and students to hear the results of the survey on drug and alcohol. And going back 4 years, one was given, and results had been, in fact, disseminated from that survey. Then 4 years later, the same survey was given again, and so this way we could look at trends. And what we saw was a bit alarming in terms of the increase, I guess, in particular areas of alcohol use, in particular marijuana use as well. And so as we look at that kind of picture, we were talking before about perhaps picking your brains a bit about what in fact puts Mamaroneck perhaps a little bit above the curve when we look nationally at this phenomenon. So.
Say one thing, like when you guys gave us the survey, it was the week after spring break, and
Is that true?
It is. Yeah. So it's like, how many times have you drank in the last 7 days, or how many times? Like,
38.
Yeah. So it was warped. It was a little warped, I think.
Yeah.
So that could have.
We had heard that it was given at the same time 4 years ago, so I don't know if it coincided with that.
I don't know, but
But
that is.
So it may have been
that
skewed.
is
It may have been
Some
skewed.
people who may not have drunk or normally throughout the school year, maybe they went away on spring break somewhere where the drinking age was 18 and they decided to drink. So that may have skewed the results, the percentages. I'm sure it did. Or people drank more than they might normally.
It was last 7 days, last month, last year type of thing.
But I guess, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I guess we're both curious to know, we've had so many drug and alcohol programs, so many speakers, so much work done in the health class, but it has not seemed to affect behavior. And you now are in a much more permissive atmosphere now. You're not with your parents. Why is it, and I'm really being serious, why is it that despite all the programs, the rate of drinking and drugging is very high, particularly on weekends?
I think the people who are going to drink are the ones who've already made up their minds about it. So when you're talking to them in health class and you're saying, don't drink, but they know all the facts. And I mean, if they're doing it anyway, it's really, they're not going to change their minds just because somebody's saying, look, here's a diseased lung. They're pretty much doing it anyway.
Okay. Any other theories? Are the programs effective in high school at all?
I think it's beyond high school. I think it's a problem that kind of goes deeper than what we can do here. I think if you look at Europe or something, they have it better. You start drinking younger, but they don't have the same problems.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's nothing.
Because it's forbidden, people are so interested.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my parents are both Spanish from Spain, and so alcohol was never an issue in my house. If I wanted to try some wine with dinner, they always drink red wine with dinner. I'm allowed to try it. If I wanted a glass of champagne when it was a wedding or Christmas or New Year's, it was never an issue. So I feel that since I've always been around alcohol, the alcohol cabinet is never locked. It's right there. I go down to the cellar to get the wine for my parents and everything. It's never been an issue. So I feel that the fact that I've seen it, it's around me all the time, hasn't made me necessarily want to abuse alcohol. It's not a forbidden fruit that, is just hanging over there. So I feel like that really does have a lot to do with it. If you just say, you can't do this is the most terrible thing you can ever do, people are going to be like, oh, well, why is it so terrible? And that's when I think you get the alcohol abuse. I feel like people are going to drink no matter what, but maybe more moderately.
Yeah, one of the things, and before you answer, one of the things that we've seen from the survey, and we just know anecdotally, is that there's a great deal of binge drinking, I guess we'd call it, where people just don't have a beer or two, but in fact drink to excess and put themselves at risk, in danger, so to speak. So perhaps you have some thoughts about that. But
Yeah, I think that like Clara was talking about, like the phenomenon, I guess, is something that's as a result of the culture here and is much different from the culture in places where it's not illegal for people who are 18, or some places I think the drinking age is lower. And so I think that it's like the high school, like a school that a school just has only a limited amount of influence, despite how much effort it makes on like the decisions people ultimately make. And yeah, I think the binge drinking is definitely as a result of culture and what people see everywhere within like schools and programs. But
And how heavy is the drinking scene in college?
Actually, somebody like passed out in front of my door and started having a seizure. So that was, and they were like, I think it's alcohol related. And then they wrote up the people who were trying to help her. And then my friend had somebody walk into his room and throw up and then walk out. But then you hear about those two instances, but nobody's ever drinking. So I'm not sure how they're doing it. Because
well, they might be drinking, like.
Yeah, they're probably drinking.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying like you hear like one or two instances of really weird things happening, but it's pretty moderate. Like they're not.
Stanford has a great policy, I think, in terms of drinking and alcohol use. Is that it's like an open door policy, so you're not trying to hide. They're like, if you're drinking, keep your door open so we can see like the RAs and whatnot. You're not going to get fined. You're not going to get a ticket.
Really?
Yeah, it's great. And no, it's seriously. It's the safest way.
Mike, I'd like to talk to you at the end of the show. Mike.
Say somebody gets sick. You're not trying to hide it. You're not closing the door trying to keep them under wraps. You're not worried about getting a fine. You open the door. You walk down the hall, go to your RA, and you're like, this person's throwing up. Can you come help us?
Yeah.
That's the end of the story.
So, so in your freshman year, if you're drinking, no one will say anything?
No.
They like had a meeting at the beginning.
They said the only reason we'll ever get mad at you is if you're like drinking under the table. Like I could like theoretically you could walk down and say hi to your RA with a drink in your hand, and they'd be like, hey, what's going on? Like nothing happened.
So is that protective in a sense?
Yeah. I think it's the best system in that way. I don't think it's safe to have kids drinking hard alcohol in their room with the doors closed, just trying to get wasted and having nobody see.
People are going to do it.
It kind of fits in with what Clara was saying.
Well, I mean, at Swarthmore, public safety helps you. Like if someone's sick, you call public safety, and they'll take you to the health center, and they'll try to keep the cops from writing you up because they would just want you to be safe. Like they want students to feel comfortable calling for help when they need it. They don't want this to be this whole issue where like someone's throwing up or blacked out and you hide them somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, they'll be fine, I just don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah,
So they have resources for you. They want students to be
This is
comfortable
the first
calling
time
them.
on the show I've ever heard that. I'm just curious, how many schools have the same policy that Stanford has?
It's
not like that.
It's not necessarily an outright policy, but it's sort of the feeling that you get from them.
I mean, if we
They want you to be safe. They know you're going to drink.
Are there schools where the policy is much stricter that if you are caught drinking?
I think most.
Christy, I bet in Texas.
About Stanford though and the drinking thing. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No. It was just to say we had to do this whole alcohol ED thing.
Yeah, we did.
An alcohol workshop. It was like a 4-hour online course thing plus like tests that we all every freshman
in your
had
rooms
to do.
or in
on your
online.
computer. Online. Yeah. We every single freshman had to complete it, and then they did a follow up. So I mean I don't know. You sort of it's a repeat of stuff you've heard before and but you have to play through it. You can't fast forward. It has to run. So I mean you hear it and so you have to do that.
You can mute your computer. Since you do know the answer.
I love your sense of humor. Alex, is there drinking in Texas?
Well, there is, but it's kind of the opposite of this open door policy. There's nothing offered on campus, no events, no parties, no anything. So you have to drive about a half an hour off campus to get to some crappy house. And then there are policemen there. You have to show your ID. They mark your hands if you're under 21. And you go in and there's almost no alcohol there normally. But because that's so bad, people drink in their rooms and keep their doors shut, and they have to be so secretive about it. So if anything happens, like they won't tell anyone, and so we're having more people get sick, and then they have to, like, someone who's partially drunk, has to drive someone else to the hospital because they don't want to take them to the health center, and that's causing problems. And so the people who do, because not many people there drink, the people who do drink in private, and it's a lot less safe. And so I think the other policy is much
You
better.
see, I know high school is different from college, but people in the community say if we would clamp down more, if the police would make more arrests, if the consequences would be much more severe, then we could stem the tide of drinking, in the high school community. And I don't know if you feel that that's true or not.
It would just be worse.
No
You
way.
would accept
No
the same
way.
thing.
It's
You
more about
have
teaching,
I think it's-
teaching them to do it responsibly than telling them no.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the whole thing, like rebelling against, I guess, like rebelling against like the wrong.
Yeah, it's the
like
age.
doing something because you're told not to do it. Like if you're just told to do it responsibly and like how know your limit, then I mean,
One of the questions on the survey, which I guess to me was a great concern, was the number of students perhaps that drinking during the day and coming into school having consumed alcohol, potentially doing that during either lunch or a free period. So when we talk about responsibility, of course, I think we might all agree that perhaps isn't the best or most responsible kind of behavior walking back into the school having had a drink or two.
I mean,
so I guess that's a question that's hard for me to kind of wrap my hands around, and I'm wondering about your reaction to that.
well, I think that now it's beyond like experimentation now. Alcohol in this community is being used as like a device to socialize with, and it's starting younger, and it's like it's almost like you can't socialize without it being present. And I don't know where that stems from, but like it's no longer an issue of like being responsible with it. It's an issue of like making it like a pivotal thing to then be able to socialize. And I had no idea that people would come in to school and do that either. And the thing is that when I got to college, I really didn't know what to expect from it. USC is a big school, and there's definitely a varying in like high school environments like people came from, and there are people who are very staunch about not drinking, and for whatever reason. The other thing is that I don't know. I mean, this is just a comment, but USC is in downtown Los Angeles, which is not the best area. So you can't necessarily. I mean, you could go to a party off campus, but you have to be relatively careful when you're walking back. Like DPS is great. I mean, they'll escort you, whatever. But I mean, they have bigger issues to deal with. And I think here, it being a relatively comfortable community, I mean, people don't. You can just sit in the park and like throw back a bunch of beers, and then like you're fine walking around, whatever. It is a really, and I don't know if having cops crack down on that, it would make any sort of dent in it, because there's always another place to do something like that.
I think the biggest change that, oh, sorry. Amy, you want to go?
No, go.
I don't know. I think the biggest change that needs to be made is, rather than trying to like squash the people trying to drink, try to put other activities out there that people can do other than drinking. I think the big problem is, even when I come home now, it's like, what's there to do in Larchmont? You know what I mean? Like, what are we going to do this weekend? Like, I don't even know.
But I feel like
honestly, like really, like, I get around here more than anything. You're like, what are we going to do? Like, Larchmont's boring in it. If there was like, most people that I talk to when they talk about their hometown and whatnot, it sounds like there's more structured activities for the weekends. I feel like that would be a bigger improvement, rather than having more people come in and try to convince you that drugs and alcohol are going to kill you. You know what I mean? Like, that's good. Education is good, for sure. But at the same time, when it comes down to it, there's still an open Friday night and people have nothing to do. I mean, you're going to find kids in a park drinking beer.
And also, I feel like things are advertised like as is, like the Cove. I loved the Cove. I thought it was great, but it was like a alcohol-free place. It was like, if you advertise it as an alcohol-free place, which should be like put in the thing, but like you're like, oh, well, we're trying to make alternative things. It's kind of like, that's what makes kids want to go and do it. I feel like pep rally, I feel like kids used to come drunk, and it was just like one kid would overdo it, and then the administration would be like, oh no, and like start cracking down. They would like start cracking down on everyone, so then kids would start like thinking it was fun to go to pep rally drunk.
drunk. And like that was the whole thing. And it was like, yeah, I feel like kids used to go drunk. It was just they weren't recognized as much. And now now that they're cracked on, kids are either like, oh, I'm not going to go. They're like, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to be drunk and they're not going to notice. And like I feel like that's the problem. I feel like if there are activities, it should just be like, oh, we're going to have this tonight, like da da da. And like, I think kids will go and they won't even go.
It's kind of what Becca was saying about defiance for the sake of defiance. When you know that you can't do something, you try to defy it. You know, you know that me, I could talk to you for 4 or 5 hours, but I didn't realize we've been talking for over an hour. I have a question about school that I want to ask you that's very important for this show. When you look back on the high school, how do you think the high school prepared you for college? That's part one. And while you're answering, is there something that we could do better? And that's, you know, we're open to that too, to prepare students for college. Alex?
I feel that the high school prepared us extremely well, actually, academically and socially. And I mean, I didn't really have, to be honest, like that hard of a time through my 4 years at MHS and first semester at WashU. I know Camilla took like 30 hours of classes, but like in the business school, they don't really want you to do that. And so it wasn't as challenging as, it was more challenging than I expected, but it wasn't as challenging as I think it could have been. And I feel that I can credit that partially to the high school and the curriculum and the course load that I took and the different teachers and all the assignments and everything. Just all the preparation really like pushed us, I think, to be like good writers, just good students overall, and it just helps you in like the new academic environment really well. And to improve, I feel the school should integrate computers into the curriculum more. Like I know, at least in my school, like one of my professors has every single class on a computer, like a website program with the class, and you like the title of the class, you click on it, there's the main points listed, the readings for the class, you can download them right from there. He has all his PowerPoint slides he uses in the class right from there. You can print them out and write notes on them. You can see like what the class is going to be on in the future. And you can do that for the entire semester on the first day, so technically if you want to, you could learn everything, you know, pretty quickly.
And is that for you from taking notes and you're able to concentrate more?
I didn't take notes in that class because we had the slides,
right.
And I mean they, you know, if you remember things from class, then you can like pretty much get them from the slides. But I'm sorry, what was the question again?
I said, does it free you, not knowing that you don't have to take notes and knowing that you don't have to do that kind of thing? Does it free you to participate in the discussion more?
Yeah, it does. It frees you up. And I don't know. I personally feel that I don't really get that much out of taking notes. I know a lot of people do. Like I get more out of reading. So I feel that if I don't have to waste time taking notes, I can just sit in class and listen to the professor and like make eye contact instead of like writing everything down, you know, and like actually get more out of the lecture than as opposed to spending the whole time like typing.
Some other people, did we prepare you well? Is there anything we could do better?
I think with writing especially, I was very well prepared at least because I found that, and other people that I've talked to who have gone to other schools, I found that everyone around them, they're as a level below in the writing and their ability. So I think that the writing instruction in this school in terms of just writing essays is very good. And especially the experience of doing the senior paper was really helpful for me because just knowing that I had written a long paper with research and everything like that, that I had like done well on, everything like that, it was really helpful just knowing that I could do it. So I felt much more confident going into college.
Christy?
I actually feel the opposite of Diana, and that might be in part because, I wasn't in any honors. I wasn't in 11H and I wasn't in AP. So like my senior paper was like 2 pages long, and I don't even think my teacher graded it. I didn't get any. I feel like if you're not in the advanced English programs, you're not getting anything. Like the regular English it doesn't do anything for you. So in 11th and 12th grade, I feel like you really need it to prepare you for how much writing there's going to be in college. And if you're not in honors or AP, I feel like you're really like missing out on a lot of.
So those teachers need to have higher expectations.
Yeah,
as well.
I think so. I think that the standards were really, really low in those classes.
Charlie?
Mamaroneck, I feel Mamaroneck did a really good job of getting me reading and writing. Otherwise, I don't think I ever would have been interested in that kind of stuff. The one thing that I've learned, and I think it might be a different situation, and it sounds weird, but I've been going on a lot of field trips and excursions, and learning something when you're in the same place as it happening is a completely different experience. And I'd say for like a macro class, going to, you know, Wall Street and looking at, you know, some growing businesses, that's something special.
Right.
For I don't know, for an English class, going to see, you know, going to meet writers or something, that's something that really gets them excited about a class and learning about a class.
And we could do more of that.
Exactly. I feel as if I got trapped in the classrooms here.
Okay. Clara and then Allison.
Just about the writing, I took both 11H and AP English in my junior and senior years. And while we did a fair deal of writing and it did prepare you, it was still a big jump going to college. Like, I went from writing a 2-page paper maybe once every 2 weeks to writing a 4-page paper every week or 2 per week. So it's a huge jump. It's a very big difference. And I mean, it depends on which classes you're taking and everything. But it prepares you, but no one wants to hear this and no one wants to do it. But I feel like more writing would be useful.
And Clara, when you get papers back now, were the comments surprising to you?
Yes and no. I mean, I always felt that I was a strong writer, but going to college, like especially because the classes most of my classes aren't predominantly freshmen. It's very mixed. So you have all different levels. You have seniors that their writing is incredible, and so you're graded on the same scale.
Right.
So I would get all these comments back about how like I really need to work on my structure and things that I was strong on in high school. So it's just it's a different level. I mean, you should go in expecting that, so you're not going to get all A's anymore. It's a change, but you adjust to it, and I'm meant to prepare you for that. But it could do more, I think.
Because you know, Clara, sometimes people get papers back and it's deflating. You think you're a 95 English student or a history student, and you get a paper back, and you look at it and you say, "My God, I'm very, very surprised that I got that." I don't know whether you had that you've had that experience.
I mean, it's a big like blow when you get your first paper back and it's like a C+, and you're like, oh, ouch.
All right.
But
somebody else, one or two more people. Allison.
I just felt like I said before that I was in this higher level class and I had to write a research paper, and I really just didn't know how to approach it. It was, you know, we wrote one paper last year, and that was definitely a start. But I think the program here is being revised, and each year they need to write a research paper now, which I think, even though it's really annoying, is probably good because I just got there and had no idea how to do it. But other than that, I was in AP English last year, and when I was in a seminar this year, I felt like I was in Mr. Bosch's class because we all sat around in a circle and talked, and that was really nice and made me feel comfortable, and mostly I was well prepared. But that one thing was really hard, and I didn't know how to approach it at all.
Layla?
Yeah, when I got to Georgetown, I was in a Spanish class with, like, my first day, I was terrified because there were grad students in my Spanish class. But, like, after a few days, I, like, realized that I was just as good as any of them. And I think, well, no, because they were, like...
With all due modesty, right?
No, because they weren't, like, incredible. Like, they weren't as good as, like, you would think a, like, 40-year-old would be. I don't know.
Older than 21.
But I think, I don't know, I think that we did a good job with languages here, and I felt very, very comfortable with that. And
I was going to say the same thing. I'm a language major, and I had to take this sort of like required Spanish class. It's basically like a sophomore class, and it's Spanish academic writing. And I felt so well prepared for it because it seemed really redundant. Like it was a lot of the papers we had to write were similar to some of the papers I had to write junior and senior year here, and they even reflected a lot of stuff I learned in AP English. So I do think language-wise that prepared me really well.
I don't know. I think the language here, like where Christy was saying, if you're not in honors English, like I think if you're not in honors language, like there's no language requirement in my school, so I probably won't take it. But I'd probably be doing awful in it because I don't think that I would not be prepared for college Spanish. Like I took honors for half of my freshman year, and I probably learned as much in that as I did like through the rest of the high school. Like there's really like a big when you're not on the honors track, especially I took Spanish, like it's not very it doesn't prepare you well, I thought.
Well, that's a hard question in the high school in general. There is a gap obviously between the honor classes and the non-honor, and it probably spans more of the subject areas. It becomes difficult.
Well, I wasn't in honors French. I was in college French last year, and I took a French course this semester, and I excelled tremendously. And the people around me weren't exposed to language that much throughout high school. And I was one of the only freshmen in the class, and I wound up with better grades than more than half of them. And I was scared at first, and I was like, wow. And every time I learned something, I remember connecting it to everything my teachers had taught me, and I can still remember all the songs in my head and everything grammatically. And I thought I was so happy and that I was doing so well in this class because high school prepared me for it. But I do agree with Christy about the English thing. I think that I thought always that I was a good writer, but I was not in advanced English. And I think that maybe also senior year, because you get to choose what English you're taking if you're not in AP English. I didn't take, I think that there should be a better choice, or that maybe if you're not in AP English that you should have to take a course about writing, because I do feel that I could be a much stronger writer and I'm not as well prepared as I should be for that.
Fair enough.
Mamaroneck has a reputation in general for being really, really strong in the higher level classes and really, really strong in the lower level classes. But if you're in the middle, you just kind of get lost. And I really think more focus needs to be on all three levels of students rather than just the top and the bottom, because you still need an education and it still needs to be good. Not to say that it isn't, but it's just there's definitely a really big difference between the kids who are in, say, AP English and then who are in regular English.
Thank you, that's helpful. We're coming to the end of the program. I know this is sentimental, but I want to say this to you. I do miss you very much. It feels terrific just seeing you back in the school again. And it gives me almost a shock to see you walking the building. It's hard for me to visualize the fact that you're no longer here.
As this is Dr. Orfinger's 10th class, this is my first. So this is a special class for me as well. So it's great to see you all doing so well.
You are special, and I just wanted to wish you a happy and healthy new year. Enjoy your vacation, and I hope you have a terrific second semester, and thank you so much for joining us on Alumni Roundtable 2006. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.